Hi.
Yeah, and she's been in YWAM longer than I have, which is quite a feat. Anyway, to respond to the video, I'll just step up here and take the stage.
Yeah.
I know I've reviewed it before. So, am I being translated as I go?
No.
Oh, so I'll just speak in English, huh?
Yeah.
And, I'll speak slowly.
You're good in English.
I am very trying hard. Yeah. I'm very practicing. Okay, now we've heard the content of what he said, Reinhard said. I'll give you more of the background. The Evangelische Allianz, the Evangelical Alliance, is a network not only in Germany, but in Britain and the USA. And it's a network to bring Bible-believing Christians, missionary-oriented Christians of all flavors together. It's a networking system. In Germany, for example, there are over 1,000 cities and towns that have an Evangelical Alliance network. This movement was founded in 1846, and even I wasn't born at that stage. 1846. And so this movement, so Christians started to put themselves together at that date, which means they've been through German history. They went through the revolution of 1848, the first attempt at democracy, 1848 to 1850 in Frankfurt. And then the setbacks, and then the wars engineered by Bismarck, and then the German unification, 1871, then the industrialization right through the end of the century, and then into the First World War, Weimar Republic, the Second World War, all the disasters of all of that happened, and then the rebuilding of Germany right until today. So this network has lived through this in many generations, and also spiritual input, the holiness movement, 1875 it came to Germany, the Pentecostal movement, and then on through. So there's a lot of background there, and the fact that the General Secretary would listen to our request and come and join with us and speak to us honors us as an organization. He's come because of the good work of Frank. Frank has been in the board of the Evangelical Alliance for a couple of years now. He represents us. And the Evangelical Alliance has built its center in Bad Blankenburg, and on Suze has a real personal history with that over generations. Her grandfather helped build the center in Bad Blankenburg. But the fact that YWAM got put in Bad Blankenburg, and we had our conference there, our seminar with Lauren a number of years ago in the Allianz headquarters, was a real joining together of the ways. And so this is something quite special. Also, he talked to us about alte Feindbilder, old pictures of each other and old blocks that used to fight each other. We've lived through that history. When we first got started in Hurlach in 1972, and we ran into, over the next 20 years, we ran into extreme resistance to the charismatic movement and the Pentecostal movement. And that was part of the German, the history of the German Bible believers. They shot themselves in the foot in 1909 with a very strong common agreement to stop and to block the Pentecostal movement and to block the Holy Spirit. And they lived under that for many generations. Fine people, good believing people, but they just understood that that's the way it should be. And we came into an increasing conflict with these groups throughout the first 20 years, from 72 to 92. Then there's a generation change, a whole lot more openness. And now it's been completely opened, and everybody wants to move in the Holy Spirit. Fortunately, these old divisions and these old limits have been overcome. But that's where Reinhard began his talk, by saying the old way we see each other, the old categories, and they've all been overcome. We're going into a flow of God together, and so there are no blockages anymore, but you need to know the background. So I wanted to share that with you. And then, okay, so that's special for him to step in, and then he came to our conference last year, and so much appreciated the way we all prayed over him and the way Frank and led into that. He built his whole talk around that. And this is a spirit-filled man who loves God. His spiritual home is the YMCA in Munich. And so he's just opened his heart, and the whole movement is opening its heart, as far as I can tell, to just move on with God. And then he's talking to us in YWAM. And then he affirms our spirituality, our listening to God, our desire to follow the Spirit, to believe what we hear, words of God. Then he talks to us about we're coming to maturity. In 2 years' time, Youth of the Mission Hurlach will celebrate 50 years. And the mission as a whole is older, but in Germany, we've been there actually 50 years already. Which means the whole organization must recognize that it's a mature organization. And then he talked about coming into maturity, we're middle-aged, and then we have the wonderful chance of the generations together. And he had an exhortation to the younger people to honor the parents, the spiritual parents, honor the older inheritance. At the same time, have the freedom to create new ways, listen to God. And we have the wonderful chance to go together as generations together, 3, maybe 4 generations together into our common future. And I'm one of the spiritual fathers in the meantime. Don't know how I got there. I just stayed in place. And so I want to participate. I don't want to step back up, but I want to take my place in a working of generations together, because the call is still there. And that leads me to the finish of his talk. And he said, "Die alte Dame der Evangelische Allianz begrüßt euch in unserer Mitte, in ihrer Mitte, oder begrüßt die Partnerschaft." The old lady of the Evangelical Alliance welcomes Youth of the Mission, or we're looking forward to partnership with Youth of the Mission. And it's kind of humble that he would speak that way. But what I think, among other things that it means, is YWAM Germany, we've been here a long time, but this is an acknowledgement of who we are and an invitation for us to partner with all the serious groups in this country for the vision of the nation. And we are called to many different things, but among what comes out of this is we are set to take responsibility for this nation. And Andreas Norley said the same. YWAM, step up. And we don't just live in our basis, and we don't just say my ministry. We live for the purposes of God for our towns, for our regions, for our generations, and we are a purpose of God for this nation, for Europe, and for other nations, but we are to step up and think that way. Now, we of an older generation have that within us, and younger people who are just experimenting don't, but together we can have a wonderful mix of carrying together with continuity and opening up for the Spirit to speak and give whole new ideas that we would never have thought of. And I think Reinhard Schenk has spoken that to us, and then he has invited us into the national responsibility. Amen.
Ich grüße aus Blankenburg. Ich bin Daniel. Ich habe die Ehre, euch etwas zu erzählen. Immer wieder kamen Sünder und andere, die als Sünder galten, um Jesus lernen zu hören. Und die Pharisäer nahmen Anstoß daran, dass Jesus sich mit solchen Leuten abgab und sogar mit ihnen aß. Also erzählt Jesus ihnen folgendes Gleichnis. Ein Mann hatte 2 Söhne. Eines Tages kam der jüngere Sohn zu seinem Vater und sagte: Ich will meinen Anteil von deinem Besitz schon jetzt haben. Da erklärte sich der Vater bereit, seinen Besitz unter beiden Söhnen aufzuteilen. Einige Tage später packte der jüngere Sohn seine Sachen und zog in ein fernes Land, wo er sein ganzes Geld verprasste. Etwa zu jener Zeit, als ihm das Geld ausging, brach in jenem Land eine große Hungersnot aus und er hatte nichts zu essen. Er überredete einen Bauern, ihm Arbeit zu geben, und er durfte seine Schweine hüten. Der junge Mann war so hungrig, dass er die Schoten, die er an die Schweine verfüttern sollte, am liebsten selber gegessen hätte. Aber niemand gab ihm etwas. Da überlegte sich der Mann: Daheim bei meinem Vater haben selbst die Tagelöhner mehr als genug zu essen. Ich leide hier solchen Hunger. Ich will zurückgehen zu meinem Vater und sagen: Vater, ich habe gesündigt gegen den Himmel und auch gegen dich. Ich bin es nicht mehr wert, dein Sohn zu heißen. Bitte stell mich als einen deiner Tagelöhner ein. Also machte sich der jüngere Sohn auf den Weg nach Hause. Er war noch weit entfernt, als sein Vater ihn sah. Und voller Liebe und Mitgefühl lief er ihm entgegen und umarmte ihn. Und der Sohn sagte: Vater, ich habe gesündigt gegen den Himmel Und auch gegen dich, ich bin es nicht mehr wert, deinen Sohn zu reißen. Aber sein Vater rief seine Diener herbei und sagte, kommt, bringt das beste Gewand und zieht es ihm an. Holt einen Ring für seinen Finger und Sandalen für seine Füße. Und schlachtet das Kalb, das wir im Stall gemästet haben. Denn mein Sohn war tot und ist ins Leben zurückgekehrt. Er war verloren, doch nun ist er wiedergefunden. Und ein Freudenfest begann. Währenddessen war der ältere Bruder draußen auf den Feldern und arbeitete. Als er zurückkam, hörte er Musik und Tanz im Haus und fragte einen der Angestellten, was da los sei. Dein Bruder ist zurückgekehrt, erfuhr er. Dein Vater hat das Kalb geschlachtet, das wir im Stall gemästet haben und feiert ein großes Fest. Wir feiern, dass er wohlbehalten zurückgekehrt ist. Da wurde der ältere Bruder zornig und wollte nicht ins Haus gehen. Sein Vater lief ihm entgegen und redete ihm zu. Aber er sagte, all die Jahre habe ich hart für dich gearbeitet und dir nicht ein einziges Mal widersprochen, als du, was du mir gesagt hast. In all dieser Zeit hast du mir nicht einmal eine junge Ziege gegeben, um mit meinen Freunden ein Fest zu feiern. Und jetzt, da dein Sohn daherkommt, der dein ganzes Geld mit Huhn durchgebracht hat, feierst du und schlachtest unser bestes Kalb. Sein Vater sagte, mein lieber Sohn, du und ich, wir sind uns so nah und alles, was ich habe, gehört dir. Wir mussten dieses Freudenfest feiern, denn dein Bruder war tot und ist ins Leben zurückgekehrt. Er war verloren, doch nun ist er wiedergefunden. Amen. Danke.